Welcome, moviegoers. How are we doing? Good, good. Do you have your ticket? All right, what do we have here? Real Swell. Good choice. You're going to be in Auditorium 71. It's straight ahead and to the left. Enjoy. Ballerina. I just got home from the Thursday night screening of this movie. This is a spinoff of the John Wick franchise. It introduces Eve Macaro, played by Ana de Armas. And this movie is pretty good. This movie, I I don't say was worried, but was curious whether or not it would just be a female John Wick, but it isn't. In fact, it isn't a copy paste John Wick story. Now, I'm going to say that because the film is afraid to. The concept and story for Ballerina is pretty original. It's pretty separate from John Wick, which is what we would expect, though. We want a different story with all of the same action, of course, but give us something new to carry the franchise. And I think that's what they have. And it honestly felt as though the movie knew it had something new. It knew it had something different, unique, that could still live within the John Wick universe, but it was afraid to separate itself from John Wick, the character, instead of the universe. It paid a lot of homage not only to those movies, but also to the character himself. But it didn't need them. It didn't need the homages. It didn't need all of the references, or at least the overt references. If John Wick, and this isn't a spoiler, he's in the trailers, but if John Wick wasn't in the movie, I feel this movie would actually be a lot better because it simultaneously wanted to give us this fresh new concept while also trying to keep us entertained by having John Wick there. And it wasn't balanced. It felt cheesy, it felt obligatory. It felt as though they needed the fan service to get people into the theater. But the story itself and the concept of this movie stands alone. I feel it's good enough to get people into the theater. But the script wasn't ready to say that. And I'm not sure why. In fact, the script kind of felt like a rough draft, if I'm being honest. There were a lot of puzzle pieces to the script, and I don't mean the narrative was something that you would have to put together. That's not really what I meant. It's there are story elements that don't actually fit together, but they're just pieces of other stories that they've crafted into this hour and 45-minute movie. And again, a lot of that, where it felt like these pieces didn't fit, had to do with them shoehorning John Wick into the movie while trying to tie that into the overall story that they're telling. And it was very contrived. It didn't really need to be that John Wick had to be a part of something that was going on in every third or fourth scene. There was either a reference or he was there. I really enjoyed the movie when it wasn't talking about John Wick because the universe was still there. We still got the Continental. We still got the director of the dance school. We still got the coins and the gear up scene, although it was slightly altered, which was great. We got all of the John Wick universe. We didn't need him because he, of course, and his franchise, we already know the greatness of it. Ballerina and Eve Macaro have a great future moving forward. And it felt not only was there too much John Wick, but this movie takes place in between movies 3 and 4, if I'm not mistaken. But they brought in the stakes of the end of John Wick 2 into Eve Macaro's first movie. So you can't get away from the John Wickness of it, the movies, the character. But the universe of John Wick is still rich in this movie. And they just shoehorned in references and Keanu Reeves himself. And not that Keanu Reeves didn't do well. He did. John Wick was great in this movie. He just didn't need to be in it. The movie was really good by itself, and without him, it would have been better, I feel. And I feel like the movie was afraid to stand on its own and be great. Not that it would overshadow John Wick, because you can't, but did it also feel like that's what it was trying to do? But that's not what we were expecting. It's not what I was expecting. If the movie is good, it exists within the John Wick universe and reaches 80% of what John Wick was to other audience members, that would have been a better movie than what we got with John Wick. That's very possible. And it could be that you don't compare them. It's just they both exist within the John Wick universe. And it's not him. I also got the feeling that in this movie, they really played on the concept of John Wick being the final boss. And again, it felt obligatory and it felt ham fisted. Now, what I say, I will say this, that one of the parallels to John Wick that they brought into this movie that I chuckled at was how invincible both of these characters are. While simultaneously getting roughed up, they were still basically just walking around as if, oh, they've got a limp now because they got thrown through a cinder block wall, right? So I did enjoy that. The mystique of these unbreakable characters, but just being humans. I did enjoy that. The action scenes were really good. Again, they felt like John Wick, but the character really played into those action scenes. Now, there was a lot of editing in this movie. Within the John Wick movies, there were a lot of one shots, and they weren't able to do that in this film. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I think there were 2 or 3 one shots that did look really good, but a lot of the fight scenes were cut and chopped up, but they were still good. Again, but if we're going to allow the movie to compare itself to John Wick, then that's one of the things that I can highlight as I talk about the movie overall. But the movie overall is really good when it's not trying to remind you of John Wick. But again, it didn't need to. The entire story is isolated apart from John Wick. Like everything about Eve and Ballerina it's separate. It could have been told as a separate story, but they had to weave in John Wick, and I think that was a mistake. But overall, I did enjoy it. Thank you for coming to this screening of Real Swell. I hope you enjoyed. As you head out, I've got 3 things to ask of you. Number 1, pick up your trash. These ushers don't get paid enough. Number 2, make sure you are following so you don't miss the next screening. And number 3, hit that heart for me. I'll see you all next time. Make sure you got your ticket.